Hi guys, so I'm going to be doing a video today. It's a book haul mainly focused on black literature, black experiences, that sort of thing. Where did I put my phone? I found it. So I did do a bit of a book haul. So yeah, some of these are bought from friends on Instagram, some of these are bought online elsewhere. What else? And I've also got a bit of an Etsy order which is bookish related, and then some Netgalley e-arcs. So I will, when I get into the actual book things, I'll start with what I got from my friend, and that kind of sparked off the book buying situation. But get into Etsy first because it's the least stuff that I have to show. So these are all from different shops. I tried to find local UK based ones just so that I knew they'd arrive on time promptly and just to support local businesses, I guess. So the first thing is from the shop, the Little Shop of Lavers, and I've got a lot of butterbeer inspired things. So this is a buttered bear lip balm. I don't know how we're going to be able to see that. Here we go. Lovely little sticker on the front, and it came with two little fruit salad sweets, which is adorable, and I ate them as soon as I opened the package. And let me just get out, it's got like wiggly worms to collect it, and let me just get out the information at the bottom. So it's just printed on some little pieces of paper. So one of them is actually 10% off. I'm going to keep that for myself because I'll probably be buying from the shop again. So yeah, it's the Little Shop of Lavers, and they're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course Etsy. There's a little business slip there. And on this one it says our products are packaged in strong recycled cardboard mailing boxes with lots of biodegradable packaging peanuts to keep them safe and sound. Both the outer and inner packaging can be recycled safely. Biodegradable packaging peanuts are made from natural non-toxic sources such as wheat and cornstarch. They dissolve in water and can be thrown into compost piles after a single use. Please consider the environment and dispose sympathetically and responsibly. Thanks. That's really cool. So let me keep this little slip so I don't lose it. It smells fantastic. I've only tried it on once because I wanted to keep it all together, and again it's one of those lip balms that I probably wouldn't take with me to work because I feel like it would melt in my pocket, but it's in like one of those little Lush, do you know what I mean, like those Lush little tins, but it's so much easier to open than their ones are. I'm thinking more of like I think the tiny charity pot, is that what it's in? I can't remember, but it looks like so, and it is so, it just smells like vanilla cream soda, and it smells fantastic. It's so sweet, and when I popped it on my mouth, like when I was just trying it out to begin with, I was like, oh my god, it smells so good, it must taste good, and I licked my lips and I was like, no, it doesn't taste good, but it smells fantastic. It's just really it's really relaxing and really warm, and I was interested to see, because these are all from different shops, if they had very different scents. So I'm gonna see if I can remember to compare a little bit. So the next one came in this big box here, and this is the Buttered Beer Bookish Candles. It's a 50mm soy candle, and it's a book lover gift. It's eco-friendly as well, and it's from the shop Predominately. And I saw someone as well shortly after I made my order, someone was doing like Instagram stories, and they ordered quite a few candles from this shop as well, so that's pretty cool. And these ones, which is really sweet to see, came with love heart sweets. I don't know why I'm showing you guys all the rubbish, but it's just a really cute touch that they put sweets in there. It makes me smile. And these are the business cards before I open up the product, so it's just two of the same thing. So it looks like so. And then there's the information on where you can find them. Again, the usual Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I'm sure, all of that sort of stuff. Etsy, of course, and they're located in Glasgow, which is really cool. The candle that I'm about to show you was, it's got it in dollars, which is annoying, even though I do know it's a UK. I'm pretty sure Etsy is a UK site, I don't know. It was $5.24, and that was before the shipping cost of $5.89, which is a total of $11.13. So it comes all sturdy, packaged in here. I haven't actually taken it out, and it's like double wrapped, which is so cool. Like instead of bubble wrap and stuff, it's like textured cardboard to hold it all together. And there's another layer Probably should have done this on a day where I don't have like mashed up front fingers, you know what I mean. And so this is really tiny. I wasn't too sure how small, like I couldn't imagine how small the size would be. So this is really diddy. I kind of was expecting it to be a little bit bigger, but that's my own fault. So it comes with a cute little, I don't know, like little shipping tag thing with the logo. Make a cute little bookmark actually. And this is the packaging. I quite like how it looks, all like papery and stuff. And again, this is the Bookish Candle Buttered Beer Eco Soy Plant Wax. Ooh, yeah. So these two, again, they come from different shops. This smells different. So that's how the wick looks. It's just a one wick. It's the size. It comes like this. Oh, that's it. Salted caramel is what I can smell in this. Whereas this one smells more heavily vanilla. Yeah. So the candle itself, it has more of like a slight floral undertone, or I want to say like an aftertaste, but obviously you don't eat this. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of afterthought. But it says it's got bourbon, salted caramel, buttercream, and vanilla. But I definitely feel in this one, out of all the scents, it's probably the salted caramel I can smell over the vanilla, whereas this one is predominantly vanilla-y scented. But I really like it. Yeah, just got like this weird florally undertone that kind of catches me off guard, but isn't like entirely bad. So yeah, I'm really excited for that to burn. That would be quite cool in some pictures as well. And then the last one, these all relatively came pretty quick. I wasn't expecting it for them to come that fast. So the last one comes in like a long bottle like this. I'll just pull it out. Bless me. So again, just seeing if there's any paper information. Excellent. All tucked in here quite nicely. And of course you've got those little peanut packaging things as well. So again, I'll show you the little paper thing. It just says 100% biodegradable, which is really cool. And this is another discount, which is nice. Again, I shall keep that. And this shop is called Rosie Lee Tea. Sorry, I'm trying to hide everything, but it's got a really nice floral banner with like the dried tea leaves and stuff. And this is the Harry Potter inspired butterbeer tea magic gift loose leaf tea. And it's from, again, Rosie Lee Tea UK. And I got the silver gift, so it's got like 3 different options, I believe, and one of them is like the basic tea. Then you can get one with like a spoon, and you can get one with like a reusable tea bag and spoon and such. So it upgrades each, like depending on the amount you want to spend. And this one doesn't include the price, which is strange. So I will again put the price on the screen once I find it. But it comes like this. It's hand blended and packaged by Rosie Lee Tea. It looks really lovely. So let's just get in there. But I hate like ripping open things like this when it looks so nice. Let's see if I can get into it from the side. I love tea, and I keep going in and out of loose leaf tea, so this is just great for when I fancy it. And I definitely wanted, it's really nice and like smooth. And I really wanted a butterbeer product that I could taste. So yeah, this is how it comes. This again is the silver option for anyone who's interested. It's got a really cool little sticker on the side, and it says what it is, which is good. So it's the finest black tea blended with real Kentish hops, with gorgeous hint of caramel and slightest bitter hint at the end of each sip. A brew that real ale lovers should try. And then the instructions are: just take a teaspoon per cup, boil freshly drawn water, infuse leaves for 3 minutes, and drink with or without milk. Add sugar as per your taste. And it comes in this really gorgeous drawstring bag, which again, this might be one of the perks of the silver option if I remember correctly. It's really well put together. Oh my gosh, it's like tightly nestled. It's got a lot of these packaging worms, and then that's how it looks on the inside. So here is the little wooden spoon to scope it out, which is absolutely adorable. It looks really nicely made actually. I love that. And then here is the tea, and then just inside it again it's just more of the packaging worms. So here's the tea, and it tells you it's best before June 30th 2021, which is awesome. And again, it's got the instructions and what the tea tastes are on the back. And this is the 80 gram net weight. So that's how that looks. I do apologise, I don't want to open this right now because I know it's going to make a mess. I can't smell it through the packaging, but if I remember I'll let you guys know the taste of this, and perhaps might include a video of me boiling out the tea, I don't know. So yeah, I'm really excited to taste this. I love how loose tea looks, like it just looks so earthy and like magical, and like magic's about to happen, which is very fitting for butterbeer and the theme. This one smells so good. It's kind of like the caramelly candle, but more sweet, like in terms of smelling. I'll let you know how it tastes after it cools down enough, but let's just pour some water in it. I'm going to try it with no sugar. I usually have sugar in my tea, 1 sugar, whatever tea it is. When it's like a fruity herbal tea, I do try not to use sugar as much. I usually just use it in like regular like tea, or maybe even like Earl Grey, because I drink that like normal tea as well. So yeah, I'm going to try it with no milk, no sugar. I probably will like it the least that way, but I want to taste the actual butterbeerness, you know. I don't know why I said it like that. So that's the Etsy stuff that I got. I will link all the shops that I ordered from in the description if it helps you guys, if you're interested. Again, these are all UK based, so that might be helpful if you guys are in the UK or you just want to support some different small businesses. That's awesome. There are tons and tons of these sort of shops on Etsy as well, so look to find your preference, your desired location. I was kind of doing that to hope for a lesser shipping cost and a lesser waiting time, and yeah, it worked out. So I'm now going to go on to the books that I bought for my friend. I call her my friend. I don't even know if she considers me a friend, but I really like her. I like watching her Instagram stories, and I chat to her occasionally, and it's Cat's Reading Corner on Instagram, and I think on YouTube she's Cat's Reading Room. I couldn't remember last time I mentioned her. So I bought 3 books off of her. There was loads that I wanted, but I saw her stories like too late after I finished work, I think, and the books that I was asking to buy off of her, they were already sold. So there was one book I wanted, and then I guess to make up the full shipping cost, I guess, to make it worth it, I got 2 middle grade books as well. But she's packed it really, really nicely. Again, she's got those shipping worms, and they're all purple. And I said, I love the worms, they're really cool. And she goes, they're from a Fairy Loot box. And so I love that she keeps those for when she sells her books. So one of the middle grade books that I got from her is a Diana Wynne-Jones book. I have Howl's Moving Castle that I still need to read, but I have loved the movie by Studio Ghibli for so many years. And I need to read it because I'm intending to do a movie versus book review of that, and it's interesting when I've been so familiar with the movie but I didn't know until years later that it was a book, so it'd be interesting coming from that point of view. But this one is The Castle in the Air, and I actually hadn't heard of any more of Diana Wynne-Jones's books. I think it's always been in my mind to try some of her books, particularly starting with Howl's Moving Castle, but it seems like this is a sequel to it. So that would be really cool to kind of read them back to back, maybe do a reading vlog and a book versus movie, but we shall see. Like, it'll be cool, I think, to do like a weekend vlog with the 2 of them. So I'm not going to read the synopsis of this, but from what I can remember of Howl's Moving Castle, we're following this girl Sophie who gets cursed by this witch, and she's trying to find basically a cure, a fix to turn her back. I'm pretty sure there's more to the story than that, but that's all I can remember at the top of my head, and it's probably enough to go off of to see if you're interested. But yeah, this is a really gorgeous cover. I love the colours on it, and I'll be excited to read these, and it looks relatively new. Like, I think I might have paid £14 for these 3 books together, including shipping, and it came really quick as well. And the second middle grade book I got from Kat is Ember and the Ice Dragons. This is by Heather Fawcett. I've never heard of this. Well, I must have heard of it because I'm sure she's read it and talked about it on her Instagram, but I've never like actively seen it elsewhere that I would have known of. So I thought it looked interesting. I couldn't really remember what it was about, but I thought I'd give it a go. So I'll tell you guys what the synopsis is. It says, Ember St. George is a dragon. At least she was before her adopted father, a powerful but ancient prone magician, turned her into a human girl to save her life. Unfortunately, Ember's growing tendency to burst into flames at certain temperatures, not to mention her invisible wings, is making it too dangerous for her to stay in London. The solution? Ship Ember off to her aunt's research station in frigid Antarctica. Though eccentric Aunt Myra takes getting used to, Ember quickly feels at home in this land of ice storms, mischievous penguins, and 24-hour nights. She even finds herself making friends with a girl genius called Nisha and a mysterious author named Moss. Then she discovers that Antarctica is home to the Winterglass Hunt, a yearly tradition in which rare ice dragons are hunted for their jeweled scales. Furious, Ember decides to join the hunt to sabotage it from the inside. But being an undercover dragon isn't easy, especially among dragon hunters. Can a 12-year-old fire dragon survive the dangers that come her way in the Antarctic wilderness and protect the ice dragons from extinction? That sounds awesome, and I bet it'd be a really cool wintry read, so I might kind of subconsciously save that for winter time, but we'll see. And then the book that I actually was like my main request when I first said these are the books I'd like to buy was War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi, and it's the author of The Beast Made of Night. That's another book that I've been kind of interested in trying as well. I believe Kat got this for like a book tour, but I don't think she enjoyed it as much as she hoped for. But it sounds really cool. I believe it's sci-fi based in Nigeria, or a sort of fictionalized sci-fi-esque Nigeria inspired by. It says, in a post-apocalyptic Nigeria plagued by violence and political unrest, two sisters dream of peace, hope and a future together. They're willing to fight an entire war to get there. That sounds so cool. I don't know, I want to say it's a standalone, but it could possibly have a sequel. Well, it did come out last year, so if it is a sequel, perhaps it's coming out this year. I don't know, but I haven't heard like much about it. I have seen it occasionally in the wrap-ups and that, but not an awful lot of talk. But I would like to read this because I'm always interested in reading more sci-fi. I've got quite a few classic sci-fi that I've been collecting of late, of the last year or so, that I really need to dive into, but it's always so much more intimidating. I'm so used and accustomed to fantasy, to switch to sci-fi, which is usually that techie kind of sci-fi. It's intimidating to me, but this is so cool. I love that it's like inspired by Nigeria. Again, black representation, which is very important, especially at the minute. We need to get our voices heard. So yeah, I'd be very excited to try this. Again, very beautiful cover. I love all the blue. So that is what I bought off of Kat. I'm gonna go next to the books that I ordered online, and then I'll finish off with the Netgalley books, I think. So I bought 4 books online. I actually ordered 5. The 5th one I ordered and it went through and everything, but then I got a refund because apparently the UK warehouse was ordered from a specialist item from our supplier, and due to the delay with the supply they were unable to fulfill my order for this copy, which was really annoying, but at least I got my refund and everything. And that was They Can't Kill Us All by Wesley Laurie, and it was the story of Black Lives Matter. I think it was going to go into depth of how it kind of began and all that sort of stuff, and I'm really gutted because I was really excited to read that and kind of learn more about the history of it. So perhaps I'll try and order that again at some point, or maybe even get the Kindle edition. But yeah, a lot of these books that I was after, obviously everybody's buying them at the minute because everybody wants to be educated, which is amazing, but it's also kind of difficult to get hold of them when you want to read them as well. So yeah, that's the one that I couldn't get hold of, but I have 4 others here which I'm really excited about. So this one here, it was listed as good condition, and I don't know if I think it was cheaper, obviously, because it was good condition, but I don't know why it's so yellow. Like, this only came out like 2018, right? Well, this edition, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and it looks like a really old book. I don't know if this has been reprinted or whatever, but I'm pretty sure this edition is 2018, yeah. So I don't know why it looks so old and damaged. There's a bit of a tear here. I don't really mind, it's scuffed, but the yellow pages is very confusing to me. But that is The Heads of the Coloured People by Lafissa Thompson Spires, and I saw this probably again when it released or when it was reprinted, whatever, I'm not too sure. in Waterstones, when it was released, and it looked really interesting, so I just didn't pick it up then. I don't know if I actually bought any books at that point, but yeah, anyway, it's always been in my mind. And when I was looking for more like particularly black owned voices literature, I stumbled across this again, and I always wanted to get it because even if I didn't enjoy the content, I just love how I'm such a cover buyer, which is terrible, but the pink and the blue really does something to me. But anyway, I'm sure I will enjoy it. So, oh, it's got a little thing in here, a little shipping thing. So this came to $7.78, but the shipping was $2.80. Yes, the notes: a slight tan to the page edges, good condition, jacket condition good. I probably didn't take much notice of that, but yeah, that's what I got. So this says, in this crackling debut collection, Nafissa Thompson Spires interrogates our supposedly post-racial era. To wicked and devastating effects, she exposes the violence, both external and self-inflicted, that threatens black Americans no matter their apparent success. Atina is insidiously bullied as her YouTube's following soars. An ancient professor finds himself losing the subtle war of attrition against his office mate. A nurse is worn down by the demand of her skills as a funeral singer. And across a series of stories, a young woman grows up, negotiating and renegotiating her identity. Heads of the Coloured People shows characters in crisis, both petty and catastrophic. It marks the arrival of a remarkable writer and essential, an urgent new. I read that really weird. And an essential and urgent new voice. So yeah, short story collections again is another thing I'd like to read more of. It's this lovely deep plum underneath, silver embossed writing. Yes, I'd love to read more short stories, and centered around black people and people of colour is phenomenal. We need more of it being the norm, if you will, because it's considered a niche area, and I know it's not. There's so many authors, so I don't even know. And then I want to try something by, well, actually two of these are by authors that are very acclaimed. And this first one, I wasn't expecting it to be so tiny. And it's a Jacqueline Woodson book, and it's If You Come Softly. And I believe this one is a reprint. The cover is, of course, stunning. But it's floppy, which is very comfortable to read from. And the writing's bigger. I wonder if it's middle grade, because the writing's pretty thick. So Jeremiah is black, Ellie is white and Jewish. Their worlds are so different, but to them that's not what matters. To them the only thing that matters is being together. Unfortunately, to others the only thing that matters is keeping them apart. So it sounds like a kind of a tragic but hopefully hopeful romance between like interracial relationships. I always feel like I should read more of these sort of books because I'm in an interracial relationship, and we haven't had any kind of, that I can imagine. Well, the other day we sat down and had a chat, and my boyfriend was like, have you ever noticed people like staring at us? And I'm so oblivious to it. Like, I mean, there's a lot to stare at. Blue hair, pierces, all of that. Apparently I've had people say, oh, you look kind of interesting for a black girl, like in the past, like stupid stuff like that. Like, they don't expect it. I don't know why. But I just, whenever I see someone looking, I just assume it's because of the colour of my hair or something. But yeah, he's noticed that, especially of late, I guess. But I've never outrightly had anybody say anything or anything like that, so it'd be interesting to read from perspectives that have issues or obvious issues that's keeping them apart, especially when it's like an age group where it kind of matters what your surroundings say, what your parents think, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd like to be more educated in other perspectives of interracial relationships. And then the other one is by Toni Morrison, and I decided for my first read I would like to be Sula. Someone I'm following, I believe, is doing a book buddy read at the minute, so if I get to it this month, I know when I'm filming this it's like a week left of June, so if I get to it I'd like to hopefully read it for that buddy read, but if not I will read it eventually anyway. And this one is about young girls Nell and Sula who share each other's secrets and dreams in the poor black Midwest of their childhood. Sula ran away to live her dreams and Nell got married. 10 years later Sula returns and no one, least of all Nell, trusts her. Sula is a story of fear. the fear that traps us justifying itself through perpetual myth and legend, cast as a witch by the people who resent her strength. Suda is a woman of uncompromising power, a wayward force who challenges the smallness of a world that tries to hold her down. I've heard nothing but praise by Toni Morrison. I don't know, apparently it's vintage as well, so I guess this counts as some sort of like modern classic, which is another thing I've been trying to read more of, classics generally, and like modern classics. But yes, it sounds fantastic. And again, I like to push out my horizon of not just fantasy and the magical kind of books. So although this does say it's a mythic power, I think it's one that's like metaphorically a mythic power of just being a woman and a black woman, but we shall see how that kind of transpires. And lastly, for this part of the haul, I got Ain't I a Woman? Black Women and Feminism by Bell Hooks. I think this is based off of a very famous speech. So the back says, in this classic study, Bell Hooks examines how black women from the 17th century to the present day were and are oppressed by both white men and black men and by white women. Illustrating her analysis with moving personal accounts, Ain't I a Woman is deeply critical of the racism inherent in the thought of many middle-class white feminists who have failed to address issues of race and class. While acknowledging the conflict of loyalty to race or sex is still a dilemma, Bell Hooks challenges the view that race and gender are two separate phenomena. To insist the struggle to end racism and sexism are inextricably intertwined. When I was reading Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Renee Edo Lodge, there was that conversation about feminism, and you can't be a true feminist if you completely disregard or ignore the struggles of black women, and don't try to uplift them and things like that. And you know, it was a thought that never really crossed my mind. I don't know, it just didn't even commute that was an issue. And I was like, whoa, hold on a minute, yeah, how can you say you stand for equality and all these things, yet your equality is just about being a white woman and kind of ignoring the privilege that you have naturally, even though there is still inequality between the women and the men. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd never even connected those two, but it's so interesting and so important. So I think something like this would be really interesting in getting a bit more clued with more in depth, because obviously Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race is kind of speckled about many different things, but this one seems to be very much focused on obviously black women and feminism. So to have more of a deep dive would be interesting after having that slight sort of little touch introduction to it. So yeah, I'd like to learn more. And again, non-fiction is something that I would love to learn to read more of. Rather, it's just, I love learning, and obviously not being at school now for how many years, I don't really learn in the typical traditional way anymore. So I need to kind of encourage myself to read things and educate myself through non-fiction books, documentaries. Well, I watch documentaries anyway, but reading is my number one hobby, so preferably through books would be awesome. So I'm going to be a little bit antisocial now. I'm going to go to the Netgalley books, but I'm going to be looking down at my tablet quite a lot just to make sure that I've got all the information that I need. So starting with something a bit more light-hearted, a little bit more bright and bubbly, we have Beach Read, which is something that I have seen so like on so many pages, so many channels kind of raving about it, and it's by Emily Henry. And I think it's kind of marketed as the summer romance of the year. So what I know about it is it's basically two authors go to like this beach resort or something, and they unexpectedly see each other in it. I believe they've got a history and a bit of a drama. So one writes like romance novels, I believe, and the other, I think he writes what does he write? Like thrillers, crime novels, I think. And they're both suffering with really bad writer's block, and I think the kind of main plot of this is they decide to switch genres and write like for the other genre, and I guess that kind of awakes like this new sense of learning about themselves and each other, and I assume romance. things will be rekindled. So it'll be interesting to see what their old past about each other is, and kind of the actual idea of writing and switching genres sounds interesting to me, so it'll be cool to read that. And apparently it's like a fun just beach read. I've heard really good things about it. It's again a genre I don't really read much of, but it sounds fun. And then I got this one which sounded interesting. It's called White Trash Warlock by David R. Slayton, and it's LGBTQIA plus and sci-fi and fantasy. And it says, not all magicians go to schools of magic. Adam Binder has the sight. It's a power that runs in his bloodline, the ability to see beyond the world and into another, a realm of magic populated by elves, gnomes and spirits of every kind. But for much of Adam's life that power has been a curse, hindering friendships, worrying his backwards family and fueling his abusive father's rage. Years after his brother Bobby had him committed to a psych ward, Adam is ready to come to grips with who he is, to live his life on his terms and to find love, and maybe even use his magic for good. Hoping to track down his missing father, Adam follows a trail of cursed artifacts to Denver, only to discover that an ancient and horrifying spirit has taken possession of Bobby's wife. It isn't long before Adam becomes the spirit's next target, and he's got to survive this confrontation and learn the truth about his father. Which sounds kind of intriguing. I'd like to know how that is. It kind of feels a little bit like urban fantasy or something. I don't really know. And then I picked up The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed, and I won't talk too much about this because depending on when this goes up, I've already done my January, wow, throwback, my June wrap up, which is, I read this in June, and I've also got a separate video review to go up as well. But it is a phenomenal, a 5 out of 5 star read. If you are interested, I totally recommend it. It's set in the 90s, and it's very, I don't even know how to, it's come at the perfect time of everything that's happening now with like the Black Lives movements and the onset of police brutality. It's just so eerie how this has just come out at the perfect time. It's so strange. The author's lovely. She's like liked on my pictures and stuff where I've been talking about it, which is really nice. So yeah, look out for those videos if you haven't already seen them. And then I've got a poetry one here on Netgalley. Again, poetry isn't something that I read incredibly too often, but it's something I like to dip in every now and then. I'm not very schooled in it, so I probably don't have the best kind of critical analysis of them, but sometimes that's fine. You don't need to be critical about everything. And this is Some Are Always Hungry by Xiao Nguyen. This one chronicles a family's wartime survival, immigration and an heirloom trauma through the lens of food or the lack thereof. It's through the vehicle of recipe, butchery and dinner table poems. The collection negotiates the myriad ways diasporic communities comfort and name themselves in other nations, as well as the ways cuisine is inextricably linked to occupation, transmission and survival. Dwelling on the personal as much as the historical, this poetry collection traces the lineage of the speaker's place in history, the diaspora, through myth-making and cooking, which is to say, conjuring. So even that synopsis sounds quite beautiful. So we've got some more black literature here. I predominantly got black literature and literature of people of colour from here, and Netgalley really seems to be pushing that as well, which I think is cool. And this next one is From Slave Cabins to the White House, Homemade Citizenship in African American Culture by Caretha Mitchell. So Mitchell analyses canological texts by and about African American women to lay bare the hostility these women face as they invest in traditional domesticity instead of the respectability and safety granted white homemakers. Black women endure projective labels, racist governmental policies, attacks on their citizenship and aggression meant to keep them in their place. So it illuminates the links between African American women's homemaking and citizenship in history and across literature. So I guess it's more like a review of these lives and the differences, and perhaps why this is, which is obviously why. Then we've got Tell Me Your Names and I Will Testify by Carolyn Holbrook. It says here that the author's life is peopled by ghosts of the girl she was, the self she shed, and those who've caught up to her, the wounded and kind and malevolent spirits she's encountered, and also the beloved souls she's lost and those she never knew who beg to have their stories told. Once a pregnant 16-year-old incarcerated in Minnesota juvenile justice system, now a celebrated writer, activist and teacher who helps others unlock their creative power, Holbrook has heeded the call to tell the story of her life and to find among its chapters the horrific and the holy, the wild and the charmed, the lessons and necessary truths of those who have come before. It's a memoir woven of moments of reckoning. She summons stories born of silence, stories held inside, untold stories stifled by pain or prejudice or ignorance. A child's trauma recalls her own, an abusive marriage returns to haunt her family. She builds a career while raising 5 children as a single mother. She struggles with depression and grapples with crisis, immediate and historical, all while countenancing the subtle racism lurking under Minnesota knives. That sounds fantastic. I feel like it could possibly read as a story, but obviously it's a memoir. Then we've got another really interesting debut, I believe. It is Loner by Georgina Young. So I think it counts as a new adult because it's an exploration of new adulthood, so I would call it new adult perhaps. Loner, so Loner as in like the name, Lona, kills her days sneaking into the dark room at her old art school to develop photographs. She kills her nights DJing the roller disco at Planet Skate. She is in love with a bespectacled Doctor Who obsessed former classmate and in comfortable platonic love with her best friend Tab. She works hard to maintain a permanent attitude of cynicism, but will her carefully constructed persona be enough to protect her from the inevitable sorrows and unexpected joys of adult life? So it sounds like she's very much trying to make herself numb to life and just go through in a way that she wants her to be portrayed, which sounds interesting and sounds very familiar for a lot of people, I'm sure. And then we've got another one I really hope to get to relatively soon, and that is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kennedy. And I didn't think I'd get this one because I know a lot of people were requesting it. I didn't know if they had like a limited amount they were accepting or whatever, but this sounds awesome. So basically the big tagline that everyone is saying at the minute and that they should always say is, not being racist is not enough, we need to be anti-racist. So Kennedy is the founding director of the Anti-Racism Research and Policy Centre, and shows that when it comes to racism, neutrality is not an option. Until we become part of the solution, we can only be part of the problem, and that's all of us, I guess. So Kennedy helps people recognise through his storytelling and gifts as a teacher that being complicit in racism, whether knowing it or not, is not being anti-racism. And he's basically giving you that journey of how to achieve being anti-racist and what it means and why being not racist is not enough. So it's kind of like a deep dive into that and a breakdown of, you know, post-racial society and how we still are in this, you know. So that sounds really cool and obviously very important, particularly now and always, of course. Sounds like it'll be one of those books that I believe probably should be taught in schools, but we shall see how it reads as well. Then I have The Revelations by Eric Howell. This one says, so this is another debut novel and it's described as contemporary literary fiction. Monday, Kirk wakes up, or Kirk. Once a rising star in neuroscience, Kirk Surin is now homeless, broken by all a consuming quest to find a scientific theory of consciousness. But when he's offered a spot in a prestigious postdoctoral program, he decides to rejoin society and vows not to self-destruct again. Instead of focusing on his work, however, Kirk becomes obsessed with another project, investigating the sudden and suspicious death of a colleague. So it does kind of sound like it could be this murder mystery interwoven with this very scientific sounding character, which is an interesting blend. So yeah, we shall see. I assume there's going to be a lot of character growth as well, as he comes from neuroscience to becoming homeless to coming back onto this kind of science career. We shall see, we shall see. Then we've got this one. It had an interesting sounding name when I decided to check it out, obviously reading the synopsis and that. And it's called How I Learned to Hate in Ohio by David Stewart McLean. So in the late 1980s, rural Ohio, bright but mostly friendless Barry Nadler began his freshman year of high school with the goal of going unnoticed as much as possible. But then his world is upended by the arrival of Gerbashk, Gary for short, a Sikh teenager who moves to his small town and instantly befriends Barry, and in Gatsby-esque fashion pulls him into a series of increasingly unlikely adventures. It shines an uncomfortable light on the roots of the white middle American discontent and the beginnings of the Cultural War. And this part here is quite poignant, an undeniably resonant debut novel for our divided world. Divided world, how sad is that? It's true, but it's very sad. And then we've got this one. It kind of had like a funny, kind of catchy title, so I was like, okay, what's this one about? And this is Mrs. Death, Mrs. Death by Selena Godham. So Mrs. Death has had enough. She's exhausted from spending eternity doing her job, and now she seeks someone to unburden her conscience to. Wolfe Wilford, a troubled young writer, is well acquainted with death, but until now hadn't met death in person, a black working class woman who shapeshifts and does her work unseen. I believe this Wolfe is being told stories, literally to unburden Mrs. Death, but death must continue to hold humans' fates in her hands, appearing in our lives when we least expect her. It sounds interesting. I guess it's like this personification of death, and like a deep character study perhaps of that personification, and just wow, it just sounds really interesting. I don't really know. I feel like there's many possible ways how it could go. I hope I enjoy it. Another book I saw on Netgalley which seemed intriguing was How Beautiful We Were by Mbodo Mbu. So it is a story about a collision of a small African village and an American oil company. It's set in the fictional African village of Kosowa. It tells the story of people living in fear amidst environmental degradation wrought by an American oil company. Pipeline spills have rendered farmlands infertile, children are dying from drinking toxic water, promises of a clean-up and financial aid to the villagers are made and obviously, of course, ignored. The country's government, led by a brazen dictator, exists to serve its own interests only, and it's left with few choices. The people of Kosowa decide to fight back, but their fight will come at a steep price, one which generation after generation will have to pay. It sounds too true. I believe this is something that has happened in the past and continues to happen. So a fictional take on it and kind of getting into the minds of lives that have been lived, really, even if they are fictional characters, will be very interesting and probably quite emotional to read as well. Then we've got this one called Memorial by Brian Washington. I was actually about to start this the other day, but I wasn't keen to pick it up just then, so I picked something else up, and now I kind of wish that I picked that one up because this one's I'm not into it as much as I would hope to. But it's a debut novel from a rising literary star. So we're following two young guys, Benson and Mike, who live together in Houston. Mike is a Japanese American chef at a Mexican restaurant, and Benson's a black daycare teacher, and they've been together for a few years, good years, but now they're not sure if they're still a couple. Both men change in ways that will either make them stronger together or fracture everything they've ever worked so hard for. Apparently it's a funny story about family in all its strange forms. I think it's going to be quite heartwarming, but also quite heartbreaking as well, because obviously there's the possible breakdown of this relationship, and I'm sure it's going to be written in a way where you grow to love these characters together, and so it'll be even more devastating because it feels like you know them together, and then if they break up or whatever, I'm sure that will be very hard to read. God, this video is so long, I'm so sorry. Then we've got Black Sunday by Tola Rotimi Abraham. So this is about twin sisters called Bibaik and Ariaik, and they're enjoying a relatively comfortable life in Lagos 1996. I seem to be reading quite a lot of, I guess, historical fiction, but it feels so contemporary. It's crazy because everything is just so accurate right now. Their mother loses her job due to political strife, and their father gambles away their home and everything they've ever had, by the sounds of things. So the sisters are then thrust into the care of traditional Yoruba grandmother. Inseparable while they have their parents to care for them, the twins' paths diverge once the household shatters. One embracing modernity as the years pass, and the other consumed by religion, so they grow up completely different. I'm intrigued. Again, it sounds like it's going to be more of like a familiar drama, a character study. I find these days I quite like that, sort of getting in the head of a character so deeply, and kind of being so invested that way as relationship ties break and new bonds are made, and I don't know, it intrigues me for sure. And this is another one that had an interesting title that intrigued me, and then the cover was quite stark and caught my eye. And this is Maxwell's Demon by Stephen Hall. So it's about a struggling novelist called Thomas Quinn. 5 years ago, his friend Andrew Black wrote a single million copy selling mystery novel and then disappeared. Now, could it be that Quinn is being stalked by the hero of Black's books? His wife Imogen, I always laugh at that because whenever people see my name they instantly call me Imogen, but my name is not Imogen, it's Imogen. His wife Imogen usually has the answers, but she's working on the other side of the world, and talking to her on webcam just isn't the same. So I guess it's like a murder mystery thriller. In that sense, that's kind of how it's coming across to me. But apparently it says somewhere between detective fiction, ghost story and philosophical quest is an entirely new blend of mystery. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes across. I'm excited to try it, but this is one of those books that I feel like I have to be in a particular mood for. It comes out next year, so I definitely have time to eventually get to it, but yeah, I feel like I need to be in a particular mood for that one. Then we've got this one. This is High Vibe Feng Shui by Ashley Cantley, and it's 11 steps to achieving your best life. I don't think it's a very long book, and it's one of those just kind of goal books sort of thing. It gives you keys in manifesting major life transformations, basically, and it's just kind of like a motivational book. So I think I'll probably dip in and out of this as and when I see fit, basically. So yeah, hopefully that's enjoyable and gives me something to work on, you know. And then we've got this, Redbone, the true story of Native American rock band by Christian Stapler and Sonia Pellini. So it says you've heard the hit song Come and Get Your Love in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, but the story of the band behind it is one of a cultural, political and social importance. Brothers Pat and Lolly Vegas were talented Native American rock musicians that took the 1960s Sunset Trip by storm. They influenced the Doors and jammed with Jimi Hendrix before he was Jimmy, and the idea of a band made up of all Native Americans soon followed. Determined to control their creative vision and maintain their cultural identity, they eventually signed a deal with Epic Records in 1969. But as the American Indian movement gained momentum, the band took a stand, choosing pride in their ancestry over continued commercial reward. It just sounds phenomenal because that's like the one song that I know of them, and I do love that song, but I've never admittedly looked into more of their music. I don't know why, but I think knowing more of the true history behind the band, it would give me that inspiration to, you know, learn more about the people behind the music as well, particularly like people of colour, which is really cool, and see how they came about, the struggles they had in the music industry and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that would be really cool. I think it's got a lot of pictures and stuff. I had to download it to this tablet because my Kindle, my Amazon Fire wouldn't recognise the file. So yeah, I'll be getting to that shortly, I reckon. And then we're nearing the end now. My memory thing's going to stop, so I'm just going to start it again real quick before I cut off again. So yeah, I believe we're on the last 3 books now. The last 2 I've literally just seen as approved, which is cool. So the one before, so the third to last book is The Rhino Conspiracy by Peace&Cookies, and this one is set in contemporary South Africa. So a lot of so we have like Nigeria set in the future. We had a fictional Lagos set in like the past, and now we've got South Africa but contemporary. So it's cool to see different visions of a continent in different times and places. I don't know, that sounds really cool. So poaching gangs are resorting to extreme levels of violence to hunt down valuable rhino horns. This has always upset me, like getting ivory and stuff, like Battling to defend the dwindling rhino population, a veteran anti-apartheid freedom fighter is forced to break his lifetime loyalty to the ANC as he confronts corruption at the highest level. The veteran and his born-free colleagues are hell-bent on catching the poachers and exposing their trade, but first they must establish the truth. The stakes are high. Has Mandela's Rainbow Nation been irretrievably betrayed by political corruption and cronyism? Can the country's ancient rhino herd be saved from extinction from state-sponsored poaching? It's crazy when the state is working against you, but it's weird. It's just crazy. Like, oh, animal cruelty just hurts me, hurts my soul. So this second to last book now that is in my start reading section is Who They Was by Gabrielle Crawes, and this is a literary fiction as well, actually. So rather than an actual synopsis, it has what looks to be an excerpt from the book, so I'm just going to read that to you guys. So it says, this life is like being in an ocean. Some people keep swimming towards the bottom. Some people touch the bottom with one foot or even both and then push themselves off it to get back up to the top, where you can breathe. Others get to the bottom and decide they want to stay there. I don't want to get to the bottom because I'm already drowning. This is a story of a London you won't find in any guidebooks. This is a story about what it's like to exist in the moment, about boys too eager to become men growing up in the hidden war zones of big cities, and the girls trying to make it their own way. This is a story of reputations made and lost, of violence and vengeance, and never counting the cost. This is a story of concrete towers and blank-eyed windows, of endless nights in police stations and prison cells, of brotherhood and betrayal. This is about the boredom, the rush, the despair, the fear and the hope. This is about what's left behind. Wow. And the fact that it's so close, like London, to where I live, will be very interesting to see how it takes. I realise I said interesting quite a lot in this video, but it is very interesting. And then lastly, back to kind of like middle grade or children's stories. This is Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen children's stories, and it's adapted by Gemma Barder. Oh, it says I can listen to an audio excerpt, which is cool. So yeah, it's this is in a collection, I believe, called Sweet Cherry Easy Classics, and recently, I don't think it was by this publisher, but I read A World of Dickens, which was basically like simplified, adapted Dickens stories, targeted for a younger audience, for them to get like their first idea of Dickens. And for me, that's very intimidated with those old classics, and like where to start and if I'd enjoy it. I feel like that was a very enjoyable understanding of it, and I feel like now if I was to read the full-length novels, I'd have that kind of mindset, and I could get into it a bit more. So I'm hoping with Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, this version, this like children's version, will also have that same impact and help me to kind of understand it gently before getting thrown into the actual classic and being like, I don't know what's going on, because I do get swamped down so easily. But yes, that is my massive book haul, mainly black authors or people of colour, and my little Etsy bookish bits and bobs too. Let me know what you've been reading of late, what books you've been collecting. Have you been educating yourself? Have you been widening your diversity in reading? I'd love to hear the books that you recommend or that you've just been getting excited about. But for now, I shall speak to you in another video. Sorry it's been such a long one. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.